Jamie Orozco had waited 3 years for booth B17 at the Pacific Horizons Tech Expo. The spot was hardly glamorous, wedged between a yawning robotics startup and a holographic fishing simulator, but it was the first big-room showcase for Bulwark Games, Jamie's two-person indie studio. Their new title, Nema Forge, promised players the chance to sculpt memories inside a lucid dream-styled VR world. With every headset demo, Jamie's hope swelled. Funding, press, maybe even a publishing deal. The convention floor smelled of carpet glue and burnt espresso, and a migraine of neon banners flashed overhead, but Jamie's attention stayed on the queue curling in front of the booth, proof that the little studio no one had heard of might finally matter. At 10:14 a.m. on day 2, the queue stalled. A middle-aged visitor, stocky, smartwatch glinting against a crisp business shirt, was in the headset, carving glowing sigils into the dream sky of Nema Forge. Jamie monitored the telemetry on a tablet. Heart rate 91, respiratory steady. Then the numbers spiked, flatlined, and the man crumpled like a marionette with the strings cut. The headset clattered onto the plywood floor. Screams rippled outward as though the fall had punched a hole in the bustle. Jamie vaulted the table, knees slamming into the carpet, and caught the stranger's wrist. No pulse. A paramedic team, stationed mercifully close for just such trade show catastrophes, zipped in, defibrillator gel pads flashing. 2 shocks later, a heartbeat fluttered back, but the man remained unconscious while they whisked him toward the on-site clinic. Only then did Jamie realize the expo's executive manager had appeared. Hayden Morrow, all silver hair and plastic charisma. "Probably exhaustion," he said loudly, herding attendees with a practiced smile. "Booth B17 is closed for a safety check. Folks, keep moving." He gave Jamie a thin smile that failed to thaw his eyes. "We'll need your hardware for inspection." Jamie hesitated. The show's hardware insurance contained a clause granting organizers full access after any medical incident. Still, a nameless dread curled under Jamie's ribs. That headset held proprietary middleware, custom eye tracking, and months of sleep-chewing code. Reluctantly, Jamie unplugged the device and handed it over. Hayden's assistant sealed it in a padded case, affixed a numbered tag, and disappeared. The rest of the day blurred, half in panicked autopilot, half in emotional free fall. Tourists kept asking why the demo was offline. Reporters drifted by, sniffing for scandal. Jamie's phone buzzed with push alerts. VR malfunction hospitalizes expo attendee. Competitors eyed the shuttered booth like vultures circling roadkill. When evening finally sluiced the building empty, Jamie trudged toward the exit, heart heavy with a dread that went deeper than one man's collapse. It felt as if someone had yanked the bright thread of possibility from the tapestry of the future. Outside, rain spattered the harbour boardwalk. A voice called Jamie's name. Ava Lamb, freelance tech journalist and occasional pub quiz teammate, jogged under the awning. "You saw the victim?" she asked. Jamie nodded. "I found his badge in the press feed," Ava continued. "Marcus Weathers, CFO of Skyverge AV, the expo's exclusive hardware subcontractor." Her eyes narrowed. "Odd, right? The guy who supplies all the gear drops at your specific booth?" Jamie's exhaustion cracked under a surge of curiosity. "The headset wasn't ours," Jamie admitted, recounting the handoff to show management. "Skyverge delivered certified units this morning. They said it was part of the new health and safety mandate. Standardized firmware, blah blah." Ava's brow furrowed. "You let them swap in outside hardware?" "We had no choice," Jamie said. "Hayden threatened to pull our booth if we didn't comply." Rain hissed. Ava tucked damp hair behind her ear. Mind if I poke around? Because this smells like more than a faulty capacitor. Jamie almost said no. Trouble meant lawyers, lost opportunities, but something inside whispered that the only way out was through. Okay, but we do it clean. No shady hacks. Scout's honor, Ava said, raising 2 fingers. That night, Jamie remote connected to the studio's mirrored backup of the demo logs. The code path looked normal until timestamp 10:13:47, when a foreign module labeled Vitamax injected itself between the render loop and biosignal feed. The fragment executed a brutal brightness strobe at 18 Hz, precisely the frequency known to trigger photosensitive epileptic reactions. Jamie stared at the line in horror. That wasn't an accident. Somebody had weaponized the headset. The next morning, Jamie and Ava re-entered the convention hall before doors opened to the public. Security guards recognized Jamie's exhibitor badge and waved them through. They found booth B17 wrapped in caution tape. The confiscated headset hadn't been returned. Jamie's stomach churned. If anyone believed Bulwark Games had caused the collapse, the studio's reputation might never recover. Ava spotted a service corridor behind black drapery. Storage C, she whispered, recalling a floor plan she'd snagged from the public fire safety packet. Inside were crates stamped with the Skyverge logo. Ava produced a phone with a thermal cam attachment. We look for the hot crate, freshly charged headsets. Sure enough, an upper shelf glowed orange. They pried it open. Neatly arranged rows of ostensibly identical VR units gleamed. Ava opened the maintenance panel on one. A tiny daughter board, manufactured by a company called QueryTech, nestled like an artificial organ. It wasn't part of any retail headset Jamie had ever dissected. Footsteps echoed. Jamie slid the panel shut, but a shadow filled the doorway. Hayden Morrow stood there, flanked by 2 uniformed security contractors. His voice was silk over gravel. "Lost, Miss Orozco?" Jamie's pulse hammered. "Looking for my confiscated headset," Jamie said, forcing steady vowels. "Bulwark IP, legal property." Hayden's smile resembled a crack in porcelain. "We'll return your property once the safety board clears it. Meanwhile, trespassing in restricted storage jeopardizes your exhibitor status." He gestured. The guards ushered Jamie and Ava back to the show floor. "Enjoy the expo," he said. It sounded like a threat. Afterward, Ava cupped Jamie's elbow. "We need proof. That daughter board, the code injection, it adds up to sabotage. What if Skyverge is funneling defective gear into expos, pocketing the difference from the proper units?" Jamie's mind raced. Or they're sideloading spyware into every headset, harvesting biometrics. Ava's eyes widened. A scoop that big could launch or ruin careers. They needed an ally. Enter Polina Wraith, the Expo's independent safety testing consultant, whom Jamie had met during last year's Indie Dev crash course. Polina occupied a cramped trailer in the loading bay, its door plastered with OSHA posters. She peered at the code sample Jamie shared. "Vitamax is garbage code. I'd flag it instantly, except I never saw it. Skyverge insisted on handling all verifications internally." Polina leaned back, thinking. If external auditors like me are cut off, oversight collapses. Someone could pocket the entire testing budget. "Embezzlement," Ava murmured. "That's why the CFO was here. Maybe Marcus Weathers found discrepancies and came to investigate quietly. Instead, he gets taken out by his own gear." Polina's eyes hardened. "I'll ghost into the regulatory subnet tonight. We'll compare declared specs to what's on the floor. Bring me a headset sample." "Working on it," Jamie said. Sneaking one out required sleight of hand. During the lunchtime frenzy, Jamie swapped a Skyverge unit with an innocent demo controller from another booth, then stuffed the contraband into a tote bag beneath leftover swag stickers. Heart hammering, Jamie delivered it to Polina. She cracked it open under a magnifier, unsoldered the daughter board, and hooked it to an analyzer. Streams of encrypted packets scrolled. Destination: an offshore relay owned by a shell corporation, Kite Nova Holdings. Ava's quick search revealed Kite Nova Incorporated 6 months prior, same date Hayden Morrow joined the Expo's board. Bleeding obvious, Polina muttered. This board's BOM cost is pennies. Skyverge bills the Expo for premium headsets, but ships knockoffs with spyware. Difference lines Hayden's pockets. The CFO likely suspected and was about to blow the whistle. Jamie gripped the workbench, knuckles white. And to keep him quiet, they programmed a seizure routine. It might have been meant only to frighten or incapacitate, Ava said quietly, but it almost killed him. Outside the trailer, festival music thumped. Inside, the air felt thinner. Polina laid out the plan. Duplicate the full data dump. Pass it to federal cybercrime investigators. Leak sanitized reports to consumer safety media. Time mattered. They needed to act before Skyverge removed evidence or vanished. Jamie returned to the booth for the Expo's final showcase. The queue had dried to a trickle. Rumours labelled Mnemoforge dangerous. Investors ghosted. Jamie's dream teetered like a stack of unsold discs. Doubt gnawed. How much collateral damage would exposing the scheme cause? Could Bulwark Games survive? At 5:03 p.m, Jamie felt a presence and looked up. A thin man, face pallid but alert, stood shakily with a nurse at his side. Marcus Weathers. "I asked to come," he said, voice hoarse. "I needed to see the booth." Jamie motioned him to a chair. Between sips of electrolyte water, Marcus recounted how he'd traced ballooning procurement invoices. Skyverge ordered 2,000 Mark IV headsets at retail $900 each. Warehouse logs showed shipments of discount models. He booked a clandestine trip to the Expo alone to confirm. The last thing he remembered was donning a demo unit, then darkness. Jamie debated telling Marcus the rest, but footsteps interrupted. Hayden approached, face set in corporate concern. "Mr. Weathers, you should still be resting." "What happened to me, Morrow?" Marcus asked, eyes sharpening. Hayden spread hands. "An unfortunate sync error in the game's graphics pipeline, but we're investigating." He pivoted toward Jamie, voice slipping into ice. "We do expect full cooperation." Jamie's temper, worn thin, snapped. "You mean cooperation like letting Skyverge swap in spyware headsets? Or cooperation like staying quiet while attendees get injured?" People nearby faltered, earbuds sliding free. Hayden's gaze flickered with lethal warning. "Careful, slander carries consequences." Jamie stepped forward. "Truth carries louder ones, especially when safety inspectors, journalists, and the FBI get involved." A hush iced across the aisle. Hayden opened his mouth, then noticed Ava live-streaming from her phone. Panic bobbed in his eyes, but he masked it quickly. "I won't dignify conspiracy theories," he said, walking off. Yet the set of his shoulders betrayed fracture lines. That night, Polina's data packet rocketed across secure channels to the Bureau's white-collar crimes division. Ava pre-wrote an article, embargoed until federal confirmation. Marcus, newly determined, offered sworn testimony. Jamie paced the hotel room, adrenaline strafing nerves. Consequences spiraled: Skyverge stock tanking, Expo sponsors bailing, possible lawsuits. Then the phone buzzed with a one-line text from Polina. "They bit." At dawn, Agents in windbreakers spread through the convention center. Jamie watched from a balcony as Hayden, expression stunned and waxy, was guided into a black SUV. Uniformed officers taped off storage corridors. News crews descended like gulls on fish scraps. A press conference confirmed charges: wire fraud, computer sabotage, conspiracy to commit aggravated assault, potentially attempted homicide. The expo shuttered midday. Exhibitors cursed, loaded gear into crates, demanded refunds. Amid the chaos, Jamie sat on an empty pallet, head in hands. The dream of a triumphant launch had curdled into 3 days of detective work and anxiety. A touch landed on Jamie's shoulder. It was Marcus, offering a faint smile. "Your game didn't fail," he said. "The stage collapsed underneath you. Different problem." Jamie managed a laugh that felt like the first real breath in days. 2 weeks later, a smaller, hastily organized Indies Unplugged showcase popped up at a downtown community art space. Polina served on the board, Marcus funded the rental anonymously, and Ava handled PR. The crowd wasn't huge, maybe 300 attendees, some local newspapers, a smattering of streamers, but every person who queued for Nemo Forge did so with curiosity, not suspicion. Jamie adjusted a RE-certified headset, this time triple audited. Inside, players conjured floating memories: childhood beaches, lost relatives, skyscrapers of impossible geometry. They laughed, they cried. Jamie hovered, tweaking parameters, guiding novices across neural vistas. For the first time since the expo, hope felt sturdy again. During a lull, Ava nudged Jamie. "Check your inbox." An email from Brightline Interactive, a mid-tier publisher known for fair royalties, sat atop the stack. Subject: interested in Nemo Forge. Jamie skimmed. Funding proposal, marketing support, developer autonomy. Breath caught, equal parts fear and exhilaration. "What do you think?" Ava asked. Jamie stared across the room at people exploring the dreamscapes born from a cramped apartment's midnight code sprints. "I think nearly losing everything burns off the noise," Jamie said. "What's left is the reason we started." Ava clinked a paper coffee cup against Jamie's. To truth, then, and to indie devs who refused to look the other way. In the months that followed, the scandal's aftershocks rippled outward. Skyverge's CEO pled to lesser charges in exchange for cooperation. Hayden Morrow faced federal trial. The embezzled funds traced through Kite Nova bank accounts totaled $8 million. Victims of the spyware class action suit received settlements. Marcus Weathers, though hobbled by lingering photosensitivity, became a vocal advocate for stricter hardware verification, pushing for the Weathers Protocol in public venues. Bulwark Games signed the deal with Brightline. Jamie and co-founder Nikhil hired 2 more engineers and a narrative designer. Nemo Forge launched a year later to strong reviews praising its breezy surrealism and surgical empathy. On release day, Jamie visited Marcus in the rehabilitation clinic, bringing a DRM-free build. They ran it on a standard monitor, no VR risks, and together watched virtual constellations bloom. "This is what tech should be," Marcus said softly, "not profit at any cost. Wonder with guardrails." Jamie nodded. The memory palace on screen shimmered like a promise. Epilogue, though Jamie hated that word. At the next Pacific Horizons Expo, rebranded under new management, Bulwark Games returned, booth A5 this time, prime real estate. A discreet bronze plaque hung in the lobby. In recognition of those who exposed the 2024 Skyverge scandal and championed integrity in innovation. Jamie ran fingers over etched letters. None of this would change the hours of panic, the man who nearly died, or the taste of betrayal. but it proved that indie voices could recalibrate a broken system. As attendees filed in, Jamie tightened the last cable, took a centering breath, and opened the booth for demos. The queue formed instantly, alive with chatter. Somewhere inside each visitor waited a memory ready to be forged, and Jamie, finally, was ready to help them find it.